Autumn in Tasmania was colder than I'd ever imagined. The wind slithered through the eucalyptus trees, wailing in hoarse, broken tones, like the cries of something abandoned long ago. The air reeked of wet earth, rotting moss, and ancient damp wood, a heavy, suffocating mix that clung to the back of my throat. The narrow dirt path snaked deeper into the woods, like a faded scar on the land. Each turn of the wheels left deep tracks in the mud, releasing the sour stench of overturned soil. Trees leaned overhead, heavy with shadows, choking what little light managed to seep through the thick canopy. At 4:17 p.m., I saw it, the wooden house crouched in the clearing, swallowed by a sea of decaying trees. Its walls were cracked, the porch slanted precariously, and the broken windows gleamed dully like shattered eyes. The sharp, metallic tang of blood mingled with the mildew, coating the air so thickly I could almost taste it. No birds, no insects, only the dull, heavy thud of my own heartbeat. I killed the engine. The car door groaned open with a rusty screech, shattering the silence. Cold air slapped against my face, sharp as needles. A chill rose from the soles of my feet, crawling up my spine. Clutching my jacket tighter, I stepped toward the house. The front door moaned long and low as I pushed it open. A gust of icy wind poured into the hallway, thick with dust and decay. Inside, darkness reigned. A thin beam of dying light spilled through the broken window, illuminating motes of dust drifting lazily in the air. Every footstep on the sagging wooden floor groaned under my weight. Wind whispered through unseen cracks, rattling loose shutters and making doors creak on their hinges. I swept my flashlight across the room. The walls were mottled and peeling, streaked with moss like festering wounds. The low ceiling was a web of thick, tangled cobwebs. A faint stench of rotting flesh wormed its way into every breath. It was a smell so sharp and clinging it settled deep into my lungs. I moved deeper into the corridor. Each door I opened revealed nothing but empty, decaying rooms, their silence pressing in from all sides. Yet every time I turned my back, I felt it, something slipping just out of sight. A whisper of movement, a brush of cold air at the nape of my neck. At the end of the second floor hall, I found it, a door sealed tight with rotting wood, crisscrossed by rusted nails stained like old blood. The air around it was heavy, suffocating, compelled by something between fear and fascination. I touched the doorknob. It was ice cold, biting into my skin. I pulled away, retreating downstairs to find tools. Somewhere behind me, barely audible, I thought I heard a soft exhale. The first blow of the crowbar cracked against the doorframe, sending echoes bouncing down the empty hallways. Each strike splintered more of the rotted wood, filling the air with the sharp scent of dust and mold. When the door finally gave way, a thick blast of freezing air spilled out. It was heavy with the stench of mildew and something older, something darker, the metallic tang of ancient blood. I swung my flashlight inside. The room was nearly empty, save for a single wooden cradle. The cradle rocked gently, too gently for any breeze to explain. The rhythmic creaking filled the air, each groan stretching out unbearably long, marking the slow passage of unseen time. I inched forward, holding my breath. A faint, plop sound. I swung the beam downward, tiny human teeth littered the floor, glinting grotesquely in the pale light. A shudder ran through me, raising the hair on my arms. As the flashlight flickered, I caught a glimpse. A small, hunched figure sat in the corner, its face turned toward the wall, shoulders trembling in slow, spasmodic jerks. Soft, childlike whimpering filled the air, muffled by the oppressive darkness. I stood frozen. The broken window allowed a draft to rattle a nearby door. It thudded once. Sharply, I backed away, heart hammering against my ribs, and slammed the door shut with a deafening crash. That night, I slept in the car, but the night did not leave me in peace. Faint footsteps padded around the vehicle. Tiny fingernails scraped along the glass. A slow, persistent scratch, and from somewhere out of sight, high, childish giggles rang out, soft and endless. By dawn, a thick white mist blanketed the forest. Light barely filtered through the gloom, dissolving into an endless grey shroud. Each step through the sodden earth made heavy, sucking sounds. I was ready to flee. Every instinct screamed for me to leave. Then the wind shifted. A chime, a slow, broken tinkling, like brittle bones clicking against each other. I turned. Through the mist, a figure stood, small, still, a child. It was watching me, head lolling unnaturally to one side, arms dangling limp. No breeze stirred, no movement, only that terrible, suffocating presence. I jammed the keys into the ignition. The engine coughed and sputtered, failing to catch. In the rearview mirror, the figure was moving closer. Its steps were uneven, stumbling, like a puppet with tangled strings. I flung the door open and ran, not daring to look back. Childish laughter followed me into the trees, circling closer with every breath. After hours lost in the forest, I found my way back in the growing dark. The car was wrecked, windows shattered, doors clawed. On the driver's seat, scratched into the leather by tiny, ragged nails, were the words, "Don't abandon it." I pushed back into the house, my every step heavy with dread. Behind the ruined living room, a hidden door gaped open behind a tattered curtain. A narrow stairway descended into darkness. A foul stench oozed upward, a mingling of rust, mold, and something far worse. I crept down. Each step creaked long and loud, the sound swallowed quickly by the oppressive blackness. At the bottom, the beam of my flashlight found a rusted chest, wrapped tight with corroded chains. Beside it, a cradle, rotting, nearly collapsing under its own decay. Something tiny and still lay swaddled inside. Beneath the dirty cloth pillow, a brittle scrap of paper protruded. Trembling, I unfolded it. It is not human. It is a gift from the dark. Do not wake it. Do not take it away. As I raised my head, the flashlight sputtered and died. In the pitch dark, I heard it, a child's giggle, right beside my ear. Cold fingers gripped my wrist. I ran, through the house, through the woods, through the heavy mist. Somehow, by morning, I stumbled into town. They saw me and turned away, whispering, refusing to meet my gaze. I told the police. They did not listen. The house was sealed, condemned. No one dared approach again. I moved, changed my number, abandoned the broken Land Rover. But no one really leaves Dunwich House. Each night, when the wind rises, I hear it, the chiming of broken bones. Outside the window, under the bed, and from the darkest corners of my room, a soft, endless giggling. It watches me from the shadows. Small, silent, head lolling to one side, waiting for the moment when I am too tired to resist, and it can step closer.